In the limestone valleys of southern Europe, beneath layers of sediment and ice, lie the bones of a people who were once our closest kin. For more than 150 years, they have existed in the shadow of our own story, sometimes portrayed as brutish hunters, sometimes as tragic relics of a lost world. But now, ancient DNA has begun to speak, and what it reveals may change everything we thought we knew about where Neanderthals truly came from. For decades, the origin of Neanderthals has puzzled scientists. Their remains are scattered from the caves of Spain to the plains of Siberia, dating back hundreds of thousands of years. Yet their genetic signature, the blueprint encoded in their cells, points to a journey even older, stretching back to a time before Europe had ever seen their kind. A new study, led by an international team of geneticists and paleoanthropologists, analyzed DNA from Neanderthal fossils across multiple regions, from the famous Vindija cave in Croatia to the remote Altai mountains of southern Siberia. The results connect climate shifts, migrations, and encounters with other ancient humans in ways never seen before. Neanderthals were not an isolated evolutionary offshoot. Around 600,000 years ago, they split from a common ancestor shared with modern humans, likely Homo heidelbergensis, somewhere in Africa or Eurasia. But their precise point of origin remained uncertain until now. The team examined both nuclear and mitochondrial DNA, the latter passed down through maternal lines from bones and teeth preserved in permafrost-like conditions. These genetic fragments were compared with hundreds of ancient and modern genomes from across the world. What they found was remarkable. The earliest Neanderthals carried traces of an even older lineage, one that appears to have originated farther east, possibly in Central or East Asia, before moving west into Ice Age Europe. One of the most striking discoveries came from the Altai Neanderthal, a female who lived more than 120,000 years ago. Her DNA revealed evidence of interbreeding with another mysterious human group, the Denisovans, deep in prehistory. This shows that the Neanderthal story was not a straight evolutionary line, but a braided river of migrations, contacts, and genetic exchange. The genetic evidence also reveals that Neanderthals were not a single uniform population. Early Western Neanderthals, such as those from Spain's Cima de los Huesos site, dated to over 430,000 years ago, had genetic profiles distinct from their Eastern counterparts. This suggests multiple waves of Neanderthals moved into Europe, replacing, mixing with, and sometimes coexisting alongside one another. But if their ancestors came from farther east, what pushed them across such vast distances? Climate likely played a major role. Ice Age Europe was shaped by brutal winters and rapidly changing landscapes. Repeated glacial cycles forced populations south into refuges, then pulled them north again during warmer interglacial periods. These movements may have brought Neanderthals into contact with distant populations, including early relatives of modern humans, much earlier than previously believed. The DNA also revealed something unexpected: small but significant genetic contributions from an even older hominin, possibly Homo erectus. This points to deep roots in Asia, before Neanderthals expanded westward, and suggests their origins were not confined to a single region. Rather than slow-moving, isolated survivors, Neanderthals now appear as travelers and adapters, people shaped by long journeys across continents. Another key piece of the puzzle comes from Mesmaiiska Cave in the Caucasus Mountains, a rugged corridor between Europe and Asia. Archaeologists uncovered the remains of a Neanderthal child there, her bones still carrying traces of a short life lived more than 40,000 years ago. Her DNA told a different story from Western European Neanderthals. She carried genetic links to populations far to the east, echoing ancestry seen in the Altai Neanderthal. This supports the idea that the Caucasus was not a boundary, but a bridge, connecting Ice Age Europe with Asia. The genetic timeline that emerges is staggering, Between roughly 100,000 and 60,000 years ago, Neanderthals expanded and re-expanded across different regions multiple times. Each movement left subtle marks in their DNA, like footnotes in a book no one expected to read. These migrations likely brought Neanderthals into repeated contact with other human groups, including our own ancestors. This matters because the story of Neanderthals is inseparable from the story of us. Every non-African person alive today carries about 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. That inheritance comes from interbreeding events, some in the Middle East, others possibly farther east, as modern humans began leaving Africa around 60,000 years ago. But new genetic evidence suggests some of these interactions happened much earlier. Certain Neanderthal lineages appear to have received genes from early modern human relatives more than 200,000 years ago, long before our species' major migration. This points to waves of contact, separation, and reconnection spanning hundreds of thousands of years. So why did Neanderthals disappear around 40,000 years ago if they were so adaptable? DNA provides part of the answer. Toward the end of their existence, Neanderthal populations became small and increasingly isolated. Inbreeding reduced genetic diversity, making them more vulnerable to disease and environmental stress. Meanwhile, modern humans, with larger social networks, wider trade connections, and possibly more flexible technologies, expanded rapidly into Neanderthal territory. Still, the genetic record is clear. Neanderthals did not simply vanish. They left a lasting legacy within us, genes that influence immune responses, fat metabolism, and even how our skin reacts to sunlight. In a very real sense, they are still here. As ancient DNA technology advances, scientists are now searching for Neanderthal traces in unexpected places. Cave sediments with no visible bones, microscopic residues on ancient tools, even dental calculus preserved on fossilized teeth. Each new discovery sharpens the image of a species whose origins were far more dynamic than static museum dioramas suggest. The true origin of Neanderthals is not a single point on a map. It is a network of journeys, exchanges, and adaptations spanning continents. It is the story of a people shaped by ice, migration, and mingling with other humans, carrying memories of lands thousands of miles apart. And as the evidence grows, one truth becomes increasingly clear. To understand them is to understand ourselves. Within our DNA are echoes of their struggles, their resilience, and their endurance. They survived landscapes that would break most of us, hunted in cold so severe it could kill within minutes, and still adapted. The wind that cut across their shelters, the firelight flickering on stone walls, the shared meals, the songs or stories we will never hear, all of it left an imprint on who we are today. When we trace their story, we aren't just uncovering the past, we are recovering missing chapters of our own.